20,000 years ago. No cities, no farms, no metal. Just a small band of hunter-gatherers huddled around a fire, trying to survive one more night in a world where almost everything wanted to eat them. And out past the edge of the firelight, something was watching them. Two eyes, glinting in the dark, and not running and not attacking and just standing there, silently watching. Anyone who's ever faced a wild animal in the middle of the night knows that feeling. Heart pounding, hand gripping the spear a little tighter, one question running through your head. Throw it or don't. But that night, for some reason, the spear never left the hunter's hand. That single moment, repeated who knows how many times around who knows how many campfires over thousands of years, is where dogs actually began. And the real story is weirder, messier, and honestly funnier than anything you were told as a kid. Here's the story you probably grew up with. A caveman finds a litter of wolf pups, raises them by hand, and slowly trains them into loyal companions. Sounds great. Sounds like the opening scene of an animated movie. It's also almost certainly wrong. Here's what we actually know for sure. Every breed of dog on the planet, from the towering Great Dane to the pocket-sized Chihuahua, is technically a subspecies of the gray wolf. Dogs were the first animal humans ever domesticated, beating sheep, goats, and cattle to the punch by thousands of years. Genetic evidence points to domestication starting somewhere between 15 and 40,000 years ago, long before agriculture existed anywhere on Earth. In other words, humans figured out how to live with dogs before we figured out how to grow wheat. So if it wasn't a caveman adopting a wolf pup, then what was it? Here's the problem with that story. An adult wolf, even one raised by humans from birth with nothing but love and attention, does not turn into a dog. The wild instinct never fully goes away. Zoos and wildlife rescue centers have known this for over a century. Researchers have tried raising wolf pups exactly like domestic dogs. Bottle-fed, sleeping in the same bed, treated like family. The result? By adulthood, most of those wolves were still aggressive, unpredictable, and every bit as dangerous as you'd expect from an apex predator. Love doesn't rewrite biology. The leading theory today flips the whole story on its head. Humans didn't domesticate wolves. Wolves domesticated themselves. Brian Hare, an animal cognition researcher who spent his career studying dog intelligence, calls this survival of the friendliest, a direct twist on Darwin's famous survival of the fittest. Picture it like this. Human hunting camps were constantly producing something the ecosystem had never seen at this scale before. Leftover bones, scraps, discarded guts after butchering a kill. For a scavenging wolf, that's basically an all-you-can-eat buffet that just opened up in the middle of a brutal landscape. So a few wolves, not the toughest, most dominant ones, but the ones that were just slightly less afraid of humans, started hanging around the edges of camp, close enough to grab the leftovers, far enough to not get speared. Those wolves ate better, survived more often, and had more pups. And their pups inherited that same trait, being a little less afraid of people. Generation after generation. Repeat that process for thousands of generations, and natural selection quietly built a friendlier version of the wolf, without anyone ever planning it or running a breeding program. No labs, no breeding charts, just piles of leftover bones by the fire, and nature being incredibly patient. And here's the part that lets scientists actually test this theory instead of just guessing. In 1959, a Soviet geneticist named Dmitry Belyaev wanted to know, if you selected for exactly one trait, friendliness, could you recreate the entire domestication process in just a few decades? There was one problem. Genetics was considered bourgeois pseudoscience in the Soviet Union at the time, and scientists who pursued it were risking serious trouble. So Belyaev disguised his research as a completely legal fur farming operation and quietly started selecting for one thing, and one thing only: how calm each fox was around humans. With every new litter of fox kits, he and his team would reach a hand toward them, watch how they reacted, and breed only the ones that showed the least fear, the least aggression. Not coat color, not size, just temperament. Within just a few generations, not thousands of years, just a handful of generations, the foxes started changing in bizarre ways. They weren't just friendlier. Their ears started flopping down, their tails curled up like a question mark. Their fur started coming in with white patches instead of solid silver. Even the shape of their skulls changed. Their faces got rounder, more cute in a literal, measurable sense. Their breeding cycle shifted too. Belyaev selected only for friendliness, and a whole package of physical and biological traits came along for the ride, almost as if they were bundled together in the same genetic package. Scientists call this domestication syndrome. It suggests that the genes controlling fear and stress response are wired together with the genes controlling physical development. Specifically, a group of embryonic cells that end up shaping everything from ear position to tail curl to fur color to jaw size. Select for calmness, and you accidentally get floppy ears as a bonus. And here's the wild part. This isn't just a fox thing. Scientists have spotted the same pattern in domestic pigs, domestic horses, even in bonobos compared to their close cousins, chimpanzees. It looks like domestication might be a shared biological switch that can get flipped in a bunch of different species, given the right kind of selection pressure. That means wild wolves may have started looking like dogs much faster than anyone used to think. But domestication was never a one-way street. Somewhere out there, ancient humans also had to make the choice not to throw the spear at the wolf sitting near their fire. And genetic data suggests this didn't happen just once. It may have happened in multiple regions around the world, from East Asia to the Middle East to Europe. Scientists still don't fully agree on this part. Some recent genetic studies lean toward a single domestication event that then spread across the globe following human migration, while others still back the multiple origin theory. It's one of the most active debates in paleontology right now, and it's probably not getting settled anytime soon. Once humans realized a semi-tame wolf could warn them of danger, help track prey, or guard the camp at night, this relationship accelerated. Humans started actively keeping the friendliest ones around, feeding them more, letting them get closer. From that point on, wolves weren't just adapting to us anymore. We started shaping them right back. Because here's the thing, dogs aren't just wolves with better manners. Their brains genuinely work differently. Take something as simple as pointing. If you point at an object, a dog will follow your finger almost instantly. In controlled experiments, even puppies, just a few weeks old, with little to no exposure to humans, can do this. Meanwhile, wolf pups raised carefully from birth, bottle-fed, handled daily, consistently fail the same test. Dogs don't learn this through training. It's something they're born already wired for, a kind of built-in, shared language that evolution preloaded specifically to understand us. Eye contact is even stranger. In wolf society, staring directly into another wolf's eyes is a challenge. It can trigger a fight. Dogs evolved in the complete opposite direction. They actively seek out eye contact with you, sometimes holding it for tens of seconds at a time. A study published in the journal Science in 2015 by a team of Japanese researchers found that every time a dog and its owner lock eyes, both of their brains release oxytocin, the same hormone a mother releases while holding her newborn. And here's the kicker. This effect barely happens between wolves and humans at all, even wolves raised by people from birth. Every single time your dog looks into your eyes, both of you are getting chemically rewarded for that bond. A feedback loop evolution quietly built in. There's more. Multiple studies show dogs can actually tell the difference between a happy human face and an angry one, even from just half a photo. No other domesticated animal, not even highly intelligent ones like chimpanzees, comes close to reading human emotion this well. Dogs also have a tiny facial muscle above their eyes that wolves barely have, called the levator anguli oculi medialis. That's the exact muscle behind the classic puppy dog eyes look, the one that melts absolutely everyone. Researchers believe it evolved for one very practical reason. It works on humans. It makes us want to protect and take care of them. In other words, your dog has an entire facial muscle whose only job is emotionally manipulating you. And it works terrifyingly well. Well enough that people fight each other for the chance to film that exact expression and post it online. Which explains a lot, honestly, about why grown adults will drop real money on grain-free salmon dog food, book a full grooming and blowout appointment, and dress a golden retriever in a tiny raincoat for a 5-minute walk around the block. 15,000 years of evolution, and this is where we landed. A former apex predator that now has more followers than its own owner. Natural selection clearly has a sense of humor. But this bond isn't new. Archaeologists have found joint human-dog burials dating back over 14,000 years, including a famous site in Bonn, Germany, where a dog was buried alongside two people. Not as food, not as a tool, but clearly as a companion. Bone analysis showed this particular dog had been seriously sick as a puppy, and probably wouldn't have survived without weeks of human care. That means this might be the oldest known evidence of humans providing medical care to an animal for no practical reason at all, simply because they cared about it. At another archaeological site in the Middle East, researchers found a roughly 12,000-year-old grave where a person was buried with their hand resting gently on a puppy. Nobody knows the exact story behind that pose, but it's hard to look at it and not think about attachment. These weren't working animals. This was grief. This was love, preserved in bone for tens of thousands of years. After that initial bond formed, humans took the wheel. Instead of letting natural selection quietly filter out the friendliest wolves on its own, people started deliberately breeding dogs for specific jobs: herding livestock, hunting, guarding, pulling sleds across tundra. That intentional breeding is exactly why, in an evolutionary blink of an eye, the same species produced both a Great Dane, nearly as tall as a person, and a dachshund that's practically ground level. Most of the breeds we recognize today weren't even formally established until the 1800s, when Victorian-era breeders in England founded kennel clubs, wrote up detailed appearance standards down to the centimeter, and turned dog breeding into a competitive sport almost overnight. The downside? That race for the correct look also left many modern breeds carrying serious health issues from overbreeding for appearance alone. A reminder that even love, taken too far, needs a second thought. And here's the part that actually makes this whole story unusual. In almost every other domestication story on record, humans hold all the power. We cage the animal, breed it, take what we need from it. Dogs are the rare exception. Dogs made the first move. They walked toward the fire themselves. Their brains rewired to understand humans in a way no other species on the planet ever has. And in return, our brains started changing too. There's an even bolder theory, proposed by paleoanthropologist Pat Shipman, suggesting that having dogs by their side might be one reason early humans outlasted the Neanderthals, another species of human that lived alongside us in Europe and eventually went extinct. Dogs helped humans hunt more effectively, spot danger earlier, and defend food sources from competing predators. It's still debated, but it raises a question worth sitting with. Did humans really climb to the top of the food chain alone? Or was there always a dog quietly walking beside us the whole way? We didn't just create dogs. In a very real sense, dogs helped create us too. So next time your dog falls asleep with its head resting on your leg, or completely loses its mind because it heard your keys jingle at the front door, take a second to notice what you're actually watching. That's not just a cute pet doing a cute thing. That's 15,000 years of two species quietly, accidentally deciding that being together beats being alone. This relationship started with scraps of bone by a fire and ended with a creature that's willing to lie across your bedroom doorway every single night. And if a story like this, where evolution ran a 15,000-year science experiment that neither species even knew was happening, is the kind of thing that gets your brain going, then this channel exists for exactly that. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, because next week we're going even further back, into the era that shaped how humans survived before civilization even existed. You won't want to miss that one.